Hi, welcome to Chad Silversmithing. First, thanks for coming to my channel. I really appreciate you visiting. If you wouldn't mind, it helps out a great deal in YouTube promoting my channel if you hit the like button before you leave. Thanks in advance for that. Today, I wanted to do what I've always called a bar pendant, but it's kind of, and I'm not an art expert, but it kind of reminds me of Kandinsky, who had kind of the lines and shapes just kind of crossing and intersecting and stuff like that. We have one of those hanging, not an actual one, I wish I had an actual one, a print hanging in our bedroom, and I always liked it. So I think we may call this a Kandinsky inspired pendant, but we'll see. Before we get started though, I wanted to thank my subscribers on YouTube here. Thank you so much for all of your support and buying me coffees and super thanks. All those kinds of things really help out a lot with buying materials and stuff. So I appreciate that kind of support. It's amazing that so many people have subscribed to me, and I'm really excited about that. So I also wanted to thank my patrons over on Patreon who are paying for my premium content. Patreon is a place where we have a Discord server where we can share ideas, and I can occasionally do a live stream for some of the tiers. We have exclusive tutorials that I put out a couple of times a month. It's a nice place where I'm actually meeting a lot of really nice people over there. It's growing, and so if you're one of those people who likes to share ideas and exchange resources with people who like to do the same kind of things you do, you might want to check it out. There's links to all of these things in my video description down below, so make sure to visit that. But let's get started on this project. Okay, I'm going to show you the stones first that I picked out. Not sure what that's doing in there. I have this piece of tiger iron that's kind of shaped like the tip of an arrow, kind of like that. It's got some cool play in the tiger's eye part of it. I have this unusually cut rutilated quartz, and it's sort of faceted, sort of a cab. I don't know what you'd call this one, but it's got a flat top here, flat top here. I think I'll probably set it. It's a good question. I could set it either way, probably. Probably this way, though. I've got a little piece of black onyx that's kind of again, kind of a offset triangle shape. And then I have a little citrine. Actually, let me use my little stone grabber for this one so you can see it. It's got the checkerboard cut on top, so it gets quite a lot of sparkle to it. It's a little bit on the darker side for a citrine. More yellow dark, though not orangey dark, I think. I can't find my little normal ruler that I use. I misplaced it somewhere, so I'm going to have to use this one today. But this guy looks like he's about a 7x5 probably. Big tiger iron here, not big, 20 millimeters long by about 13 or 14. This one would be about 13 or 14 by, it's not a perfect triangle here, by about 16 maybe. So call it 15 millimeters long and 5 or 6 millimeters wide. I've made a few of these, or really similar ones to this before, and I thought it was about time I did one for the channel here. By the way, this is my design idea book. That's available on my merch store if you ever want to check that out. I love this in that it's got graph paper, but it doesn't have the lines. It's got little dots at each corner point, so it's nice for drawing stuff out. So you can see here I was sketching out some ideas with various stones. I had all sorts of stones scattered all over here. I was looking for, a lot of times I like to put half circle shapes on the sides of these, and I was looking for some stones I have that were half circles, and I have almost no half circle stones left anymore, and none of them that kind of went with a color scheme that I wanted. So I went through different iterations here. I ended up with this one. I think I'm going to do it kind of like this, that pointing upwards. This will go off to the side here. I'm going to have kind of a bail that opens up and the channel go through there, and this stone will be set kind partially above it like that. And then this is where I'm gonna imitate a half circle stone. I took a little piece of well, it was a silver ball that I made for some other project. I don't remember which one it was, but and then I pounded it flat and I cut it in half so it could be this. And then I think I'm probably going to use some thin square wire to make a little frame around it to give it a little bit of detail and some of that Kandinsky kind of look. But I like the geometric shapes in a lot of stuff, and I think these pendants that have a bar, I thought about calling it a bar pendant or a signpost pendant because you put stuff off to the side of a main post. But I don't know. Either way, whatever you call it, it ends up being kind of a cool pendant and a real statement piece sometimes. So I think this should be pretty. So first we got to make some bezels for these stones though. So that's what we'll do first. Materials wise, I should talk about that. Bezel, I'll use 3/16 inch fine silver bezel and 26 gauge for all of these probably. And this, I'll probably use a piece of 10 gauge square wire, and maybe for these ones I'll either use little chunks of 10 gauge going off of there or 12 gauge, and this is probably going to be about a 16 gauge square there. So for the backs of the bezels that have backs, there'll be 26 gauge sterling sheet. This faceted stone, I'm going to create a little step bezel with some jump rings in the bottom stacked on top of each other to lift it up. That's how I usually make a little step bezel, and that'll be soldered into this piece of sheet, which will either be 18 or 22 if I have enough of that left. So we'll see. But that's the materials we'll be using. So let's make some bezels here. Where I put my bezel stuff. Good stuff. That's the thicker stuff. Sometimes I use 28 gauge, but I kind of am leaning towards the thicker stuff these days. Not sure why that is, but coercion from some of my viewers. Talking to you, flying chef. Okay, let's start with the tiger iron, I think. You never want to do the join part of the bezel on a corner, because you can never get the other ones to match it. It will not look the same. It'll be hard to bend there. Just a bad idea. Whenever you have angular stones, you don't want to leave too much excess space, because you're already going to be pushing down the corners of the bezel into a smaller space than they want to go into. So if you have a lot of excess, that can create some problems. So try to get these ones pretty tight. You don't have to put a pointy one at the bottom of these sorts either. I've done them with like big silver balls on the bottom, you know, some other shape of stone. There's a lot of variety you could do with these. I use pretty much exclusively hard silver solder in sheet form, and I use a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. Got pretty good on the size there, I think. One of my frequent viewers was noticing the other day just how trashed my thumb was looking, and she's right. It does. This particular discipline does tend to do a number on your hands. So, and I've been doing so much of it lately that my hands never have time to recover much. So I also get outbreaks of eczema on my hands sometimes. What do you guys use to take care of your hands? I use some stuff called working hands, and that seems to help. I also have some beeswax kind of stuff that seems to help some. But alright, looks like okay size-wise and everything. These are both going to be bezel set, but these ones will have no back on them. I used to hate making bezels when I first started doing this, so I would screw them up a lot at first, or get them the wrong size, or you know, by the time I had them the right shape and size, they were so beat up that I had to start over. The good thing is, after you do maybe 30 bezels, it starts to become more routine and not a big, huge challenge. So just keep practicing, even if you mangle a few or melt a few. Because I still occasionally do, and it's just look at it as extra practice. I was live streaming yesterday with a couple of my patrons. One was in Nova Scotia and one was in Hawaii. So, some things about technology are pretty cool. It's nice to be able to, you know, video chat with people in different countries and stuff. So I think I know I have at least one Australian and quite a few Canadians. I think there's someone in the UK, maybe two. I've met a lot of really nice people through this channel. Looks pretty good on size. This is just on the margin of being a little bit too big, so I'm going to shave a little bit off, solder it again. Well, which way do I want it? I kind of like the angle showing a little bit. This one just looks like a cab car, you know, from this side. I think I'm going to set it that way. So, I'll be careful not to break any tips off of any of those. That would be a bummer. I don't have a replacement for that one, so. Okay, let me find some 18 gauge. Hey, maybe I could get a hand cream sponsorship. Except I'd have to actually get my hands to look like it was helping, I suppose. I have to be more diligent about putting it on, I guess. Okay, so one thing, you always want to make sure they're pushed all the way to the bottom. You don't want a crooked platform when you put your stone in there. Okay. One down, 3 to go. Okay. This one normally, since it's not really a faceted stone, and it's got where what I'm using as the girdle of it is pretty low at the bottom, but we're going to be having some square wire soldered that goes up relatively high on the side of this bezel here. And so I'm going to have the stone elevated more than I normally would in order to be able to bend over part of the bezel on the stone. So I'm going to put probably 2 layers on this one as well, even though I could normally get by with about 1. I'm just trying to make sure they're both sitting down as far as they'll go and snugly against each other. Good enough for now. You can always add more if we need to. There we go. I guess that's those ones. We need to do the bottoms on the on the little caps. There's a little bit of 26 for this. Just make sure they're touching the sides and the bottom. They were, and I moved them. That's what you get for trying to fix things that are almost perfect. One other thing I'm going to do on this one, since it's going to be at the bottom of the post, I'm going to be soldering the post right to the side of the bezel. I probably should have used a little thicker sheet on this one. I wasn't thinking very well. So I'm going to put a little piece of square wire along the bottom on the inside of that edge of the bezel to give it a little reinforcement. That's a trick you can do if you forget to do something like I did. So that'll solve a little problem for us. Just trim these little guys off. Bezel's made. This is about 16 gauge square, I think. Okay, let me find my 10 gauge. Okay, so we got that. Got that. Got this. Got this part here. I haven't made the border for that yet. So I may do that first. So I think the best way to do a little frame for this probably be to solder some sticking straight out along the same line with the flat edge, and then make a hemisphere and solder that to that. So that way we can get it pretty symmetrical, I would think. If I want them to solder nicely, it's got to slope just a little bit. A huge amount. Get those stuck on there. Well, I don't need that big of a piece of solder for those, so I'm using these. There's a lot of those as these ones. Go back where you were. The flux sometimes gets really kind of gooey, and then trying to get it to let go of your pick is sometimes hard. I think that looks pretty good. I'll solder that in place there. Okay, so snip this off where they come together. Just try to like this. Probably cut a piece out, give myself a little extra room for making errors. So that'll be that piece. I'm going to need a little piece off here too. I'm going to cut it a little longer than I need. Alright, so I'll actually start assembling this. You might be able to see now why I added that little extra piece there, because there's going to be people handling it, there'll be a little torquing pressure right on that spot. And so if we add that little bar on the inside, that'll take some of the pressure off the bezel itself, which is fine silver and pretty soft. That right there. I'm going to make a mark on the side that is the bottom side, so I don't get mixed up about this. Try to really yank on these to make sure they're pretty strong. You can see definitely that made that a lot stiffer. You could have done the same thing. If I had just used thicker sheet, it would have solved some of the problem too, but this works really well as well. So that's a good tip that I've used in the past a few times when I forget something. So I need to get this one to fit over the tip of this, so I'm going to kind of file a V into it. But first I'm going to file it flat. See that, but I've got kind of a V shape going on there. It's going to be a little too sharp probably for this. Well, maybe not. I was going to use my round nose file to file it a little bit, or not round nose, half round file. Make it a little bit more, less angular, since that point is not super angular. And then at the end I look at it and I say, it's a little tiny bit crooked, and then I go back and I try and fix it and I screw up the whole thing. Trying to straighten it out, and I got it way more crooked. And then I think I got it straightened back out again. What there is where I want that to come off, so let's cut that off there. Okay, so I'll put these guys on. I need to put some little square wire sticking out of them. I don't know what size. Should I just go ahead and use same size? Maybe. This one's going to be pretty close, so I can cut those pretty short. That'll be about there. This one looks like about 2 millimeters or so. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good. Break and have a snack. So just to save a little time in the video, I went and cut out a couple pieces of that sheet that I rolled through the rolling mill to be about that shape, but one of them I need to cut a little slot out to house this stone because I want it sticking up a little bit. So first, if I'm going to get it pretty symmetrical, I probably better measure the distance from tip to tip and kind of eyeball the center here. I can kind of just decide how deep I want this to go. I don't think it matters much, but I do kind of want to center it on that mark there. Okay, I'm going to go cut that out. I'll be right back. So I cut a little notch out of there, and that should fit in there pretty well. I think though I need to probably solder this between these guys. So I need to get this shaped a little bit closer to that curve there. That's not too bad, really. I think I might do that. If I just pre-melt some solder or sweat some solder onto the surface here where this is going to go, it'll be easy to attach it that way. So. puddle a little bit there. That's pretty good. I don't want these two are going to be together like this, but they need to come together at the base, or at least closer, kind of taper inwards a little bit. So I'm going to file the edge of this downwards just a little bit. And I'm going to be soldering this to the top of this thing. So, but I want to get this all assembled first. So I'd like to get this complete so I can just slide it over there and solder it together. So I can find a little scrap piece of the same gauge wire. Here's a piece. Okay, so I think let's set this over here like that. So I think that if I sweat a little bit on the bottom piece again, that'll make it easier. So let's do that. And then we can position everything and just get it to flow again. That looks like it's lined up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't get this to solder together. From this angle you should be able to see it's a little bit off, misaligned there. So I think if I can nudge it that way a bit, if I get this whole solder seam liquid, we should be able to fix that. If I'm having a good soldering night tonight. That's actually pretty good. Okay, so I want this thing to sit down in there part of the way, and so I'm going to cut this down just where that cutout is. So there's a little rectangle missing from this top piece, and solder that in there, and then we can trim everything off, I think. So I did as much as I could with the Dremel. I'm going to have to square things up a little bit with my file. For doing that. That's it. Actually, I think it did exactly what I would hope it would do. So I think I'm going to trim it up and get it all symmetrical, and then we can solder it onto this thing. If everything's relatively straight, I think we can toss that in the pickle. I'm afraid I have a bit of polishing here. Okay, the two cabochons I just set beforehand for time's sake, and these other two are a little more challenging sets. So let's see if what we can do with these. Let's just do the citrine first up here at the top. Followed it down pretty close to where it needs to be. I may need to do a little bit more adjusting, but I finally got this to sit still. It feels like it's in there. Okay, let's take a look at this other one. Where did you go? Anywhere. So we should have it just about the right height here, but may have to do a little reshaping to get it in here. Maybe not. I guess not. I must have gotten it just about right. Strange. Never happens. So I'm starting with the corners on this one because those are going to be the areas that are hardest. Okay. Our piece. I think that's pretty. I'll get the edges of the bezel all cleaned up a little bit better and everything, and I'll take some pictures. So, right. Well, that was the Kandinsky-inspired pendant. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. Make sure to check out a few other videos. I have a ton of videos up here now. I think I've broken 180, and I'm putting out 3 a week. So there's typically one on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So keep an eye out for that. And if you want to be reminded of that, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell so that you get notifications. Don't forget to visit the video description for the various relative links. I always forget to mention I have a website where a lot of the jewelry I make is for sale. So, and if you don't see what you like that I've made here, it's possible that we just haven't put it on the website too. So, if you do that, let me know and I'll make sure it gets put on the website. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of the kind comments and support. Take care. Happy silversmithing.